guys! So, this week I wanted to share the process for working on the Heyday Kids cover. This one is for issue number 3, which is actually in the early stages of production. I've finished outlining pretty much the whole thing, it just needs a few little tweaks and additions. But other than that, I think it's pretty much ready to go, and then I'm ready to start drawing it all. I've already done the first splash page, because, you know, it's a splash page, you don't really need to have the entire story worked out to the T before you do that. And besides, I know pretty much the whole thing, so... Anyways, this one was kind of tricky because guess what? I don't draw cars much. And look what I decided to put on the cover. Cars. So, the car on the right, I've drawn a car like that a few times, because that's actually Ruben's van, which is like a 2004 van. I don't remember exactly what I decided it was. I've got it written down somewhere. But the car on the left I had to find reference for, because I knew I wanted it to be a newer model of a van of some sort, but I couldn't find a reference of any car in that position, so I kind of just had to make it up, which, as you'll see later on, there's really not much detail on the underneath of either of the cars, just because there's really no good place to find reference like that for vehicles, which is strange. Like, you can look up references for undercarriages of vehicles, but it's just really difficult to find something that actually is what you're looking for. And it's usually not, like, the undercarriage plus any part of the car, it's just the undercarriage. Which, actually, a good tip for that is getting either small model cars or toy cars or something, actually. Die-cast cars usually work really well. The undercarriages don't have much detail, but for the way I draw things, it's just enough. Kind of gives me a vague idea as to where any of the pipes or lines or any of that. I'm pretending to know stuff about cars. I know enough to operate one, I just don't work on them, so I'm not super familiar with all the terms for the things underneath the vehicle. So let's just go with pipes, lines, etc. I recently purchased 2 tiny little die-cast cars from the dollar store. One of them is a truck and the other is a not so fancy looking Camaro, and they're really good references actually. I haven't needed them particularly much as of now, but they're great for any sort of reference for drawing cars. So I'd highly encourage, if you need to draw an animal or a vehicle of any sort, look for like a small model or a toy of it, because that's really helpful. I'm not sure if this is how you pronounce it, but Schleich makes some really beautiful small animal figurines. They're a little on the pricey side, between like $3 and $10 for one, but they're extremely lifelike and anatomically correct, and I actually used to collect them as a kid, so I kind of have a bit of an advantage there, because I don't have to buy as many. However, the ones I collected weren't exactly the ones that I would need. Like, I have a German Shepherd puppy, but I don't have any German Shepherd puppies in any of my comics or anything. So that one isn't particularly useful, but it's a good reference if I ever need it. I also have tigers, cows, and stuff. I'm sure those will be useful at some point. And they're useful for more than just your comics. They can also be really useful for just illustrative work. And of course you can always find references and stuff online, but trust me, sometimes you'll think that a reference will be easy to find, but as soon as you start looking for it, you realize it isn't. And that's really, really horrible, especially when you're in the middle of a project and you just need the reference then. Something I kind of wish I had had while I was making this, though, was a brush pen, because recently I had a little pot of Speedball Black India ink, and I would just use a brush to fill in large black areas, but our house cat knocked it over while I was at church one day, so I don't have any India ink anymore, and it would have saved me a lot of time and effort to just have a pot of ink or a brush pen or something like that that I could use to fill in large areas quickly, instead of having to use fine liners and stuff like that. I mean, I got it done, but for future reference, save yourself the trouble. Make sure you've got the tools. And hey, there are some really budget-friendly options, like the Speedball ink I got. I would highly recommend doing something like that. I got it for like $3 or $4 off Amazon, and then you can just use almost any brush you have lying around, basically. I mean, there certainly are brushes that work better, but I mean, any brush will do in a pinch, and it's really, really a lot cheaper than buying brush pens and stuff. Brush pens are very useful if you have house pets, though, and we have a house cat who's extremely snoopy, so I'll be going to using brush pens and probably looking into getting some refills for them. It's all about finding what works best for you. And in my case, a pot of extremely permanent ink is not a good idea. I did get a brush pen, but immediately after I was done with this cover, so that was tragically ironic, but I love it and I'd really like to do some videos using it soon. It's extremely helpful for inking aces, which, by the way, I want to give a quick update on that. I'm currently doing the first pass of inks for Aces issue 2, and I am on page 20, I believe. Yeah, because I just finished page 19. So once I've got almost all of the first pass of inks done, I can start uploading stuff, because once I have an upload schedule and deadlines, that'll encourage me to keep going on doing the second pass of inks, which are like fixing line weights and filling in black areas and stuff like that. The second pass is much faster and easier than the first, so I'd be able to do that on a weekly basis for multiple pages. Now, something you'll notice with this cover is that it's inked. Of course, this is a video of me inking it. But if you read the Heyday Kids, you probably know that it's actually penciled. The Heyday Kids is rough sketches which I then darken and fix up with darker pencil, and then it's done. The pencils are the equivalent of inks. Now, why do I choose to do the covers in a different way? Well, it might be kind of obvious in a way, but detail. The covers are always a lot more detailed than the interior art is, in my case, for the Heyday Kids at least, and it's just a lot easier to keep all the details and everything clear if I ink the covers. If I were to try and do the same sort of technique I do for the interiors for the cover, that would get messy and really difficult really quickly. So that's why the covers for the Heyday Kids look absolutely nothing like the interior art, line-wise. There are similarities, and it's the same art style and everything, but the covers are a lot more polished in a way, especially because I spend more time on them, and covers are usually the first impression that someone will ever have of your comic, unless you're talking about it to them just through word of mouth or something. But generally speaking, covers are the first impression, and you want to make them look the best they can, just so that people will actually be interested to pick up your book, because if you've got a bad cover, who knows if someone would ever even give your story a try. Unfortunate facts, but it's true. Probably not new news. Also, I just want to say sorry for missing a bunch of uploads and stuff. I've missed a lot of uploads in the past couple of weeks, and most of that is just because I've been so busy working on Aces. It's pretty much a full-time job, and I've been extremely busy with family stuff in the past couple of weeks as well, so that's why I haven't been around as much. But I really want to keep putting a lot into my YouTube channel, because we're coming up on the 1-year anniversary. It's about a month away, and I'll have had this channel for an entire year. Not to mention the fact that we've passed 85 subscribers, and that's pretty exciting in its own way. As soon as we reach 100, I'm going to probably draw something a little fancy and do a YouTube-only illustration, just because that's what's needed, I feel like. Because it's a big landmark, because it's still the beginning of the channel in its own way. And I want to thank all of you who have subscribed up to this point. I really appreciate your support, and the fact that you like the stuff enough to subscribe. Well, there's the end of the inking. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed seeing the process. If you'd like to check out the comic, there are links to all of my work down below, including my RedBubble, where you can get various merchandise, including my art and characters, as well as my Ko-fi if you can't afford any of that, but you'd still like to support me monetarily. I really appreciate it all, and thank you so much for watching. Hope to see you next time, and God bless! Bye!